good evening. My name is Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again, and this is the match review show. Of course, looking back on what was another really impressive Arsenal performance, wasn't it? Beating Newcastle 4-1 at the Emirates at the weekend. So we're going to look at that game. We're going to also look ahead to our next game as well, which is a week tonight away at Sheffield United, which surely will win at least 10-0 based on recent results. So we'll look ahead to that game as well, plus anything else that's going on in the world of Arsenal. We've got a Newcastle fan joining us as well, so we'll get a Newcastle perspective on everything as well. So we'll look at what's happening there as well. They're going for a bit of a bad patch at the minute, aren't they? But we'll look at that as well coming up the other side of this. Of course, joining us is our usual guys, Lee and Neil. Very good to see you both. Lee, how are you?
I'm very well, Rich. How are yourself? I hope you're both good. Good to be here.
Yeah, not too bad at all. It was a good weekend, wasn't it? Neil as well, good to see you. You okay?
I'm good, thanks. Great to see you too. Talk about a great win, Rich. Champions elect. Come on, son.
Well, we'll have a look at it in a minute and see. I mean, we are just waiting for our Newcastle pal just to come and join us. I was running a bit late today. I'm on late shift at work and I've been out for a run and everything else. But anyway, I'm here now. We're here now. We're ready to go. And we, of course, got a really, really impressive Arsenal performance to look back on, really, wasn't it? I mean, we will, obviously, when our friend from Newcastle comes on, we will talk about how poor Newcastle were, certainly in that first half. But I don't want really to distract that too much away from the way we played. For me, that first half was as good as I've seen an Arsenal team play for a very, very long time. The way that we just went after them. And, yeah, was it partly to do with what happened at their ground earlier in the season? Yes, maybe it was. Or was it just the fact that, you know, the game was just an important game that we had to win, and it's important we start quickly. And that's what we did, didn't we? We went straight at them. We were closing them down straight away. We didn't let them out. They couldn't get out of their half pretty much for 40 minutes. And we dominated. You know, we should have scored more than those 2 goals in the first half. We should have been 4 or 5 ahead. It should have been over and done with. But that to me was, and I don't want to even think about it, let alone say it. But to me, that performance in that first half in particular reminded me a little bit, and I'm going to say it quietly, the Invincibles. But obviously it's not as good as that, but it was on that, it was getting towards that sort of the way that we tore into them. Because if you remember that Invincible season, we were 3 or 4 up in 20 minutes, game was done, and then we just, you know, we were just arrogant the rest of the game, weren't we? And that almost was what that game was like. Had we got those goals in the first half, as we should have done, it would have probably been a game like that in the end. But, you know, in the end, the second half was different, which we'll come on to. But I mean, Lee, that first half was just an amazing Arsenal performance, wasn't it? From start to finish, pretty much.
It was, Rich. I'd say the big one word, intensity, right? Fast out of the blocks. Odegaard as well, massive, and Havertz on the shutting down at the front, just giving them no room to breathe. I mean, I know you sort of saying Newcastle were poor, but it's difficult as a football team. If you start badly and you're up against it from the first minute, and they were. Right, quite often you never get into the game. You never get into your stride. You're almost like a boxer with punches getting punches rained down on you. We didn't let them breathe. We were good on the ball. It was just we just, as you say, it did remind you of the Invincibles, and we did that regularly at Highbury, didn't we? Back in the day, we'd set about teams, and they'd almost, you know, never knew what had hit them, and before we knew it, we were like. We were a couple of goals up, and the game was kind of over. They knew they weren't getting back into it, and for some reason that wasn't there at the end of last year. So, as we touched on last week, maybe it's something to do with it's definitely got something to do with the trip to Dubai, and confidence just seems to be flowing in that team, and it's brilliant to see. And I noticed on your link earlier about, you know, are we the real deal? I mean, we'll come on to it, but it's. We've certainly upped to level, right? We've gone up to the level that we were at last year, which is finally, you know, in the first month or 2 of the year, we've reached that level. And some would argue an even higher level. And the main thing for me is, and I'm definitely looking for bits of wood. I won't even dare talking about touching, but you know what I'm going to say. It's injuries, right? And at the moment, it's fantastic. We've got a full team out there. We've had no major people with goal. We had Jesus out. We've got Partey, but we know there's certain players we can cope with losing, but we can't cope, right? You know, Rich knows what I'm going to say. We can't cope with losing Gabriel or Saliba, and we struggle without Martinelli. Or Martinelli, maybe we'd be okay, but certainly Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli in the back two, fullbacks I think we'd be all right with. So far so good, and we seem to be having a touch of luck, which we need, because it comes down to, I looked at the bench. We still haven't got a lot on the bench, have we? So that's a worry. So I think, all things considered, it was a great performance, and we just need to keep our players fit, and then no telling where it could end up.
Yeah, obviously fitness is the key. Joining us as well, we have got a Newcastle fan. It's Danny. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Can you hear us? Are you on mute? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, good to see you. Oh, sorry, I'm on. Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah. Yeah, I'm off now. Yeah. Yeah. How's everyone?
Oh, I was just gonna say we'll
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, you're off mute now. We can hear. That's fine. I was just going to say that we're all here for one reason, and that's to talk about the Arsenal win over Newcastle, of course, on the weekend. But we'll come on to that from a Newcastle perspective, obviously, as well, very shortly. I mean, Neil, you must have enjoyed that first half, because that was the best I've seen Arsenal play for a very, very long time, like probably years, actually.
100%. I don't think I've seen a better performance. I mean, arguably we have had some good half performances now and again, even last season when we, I thought dominated at Liverpool in the first 45, and then we let that 2-0 goal, lead slip. But I don't think I've seen a more complete performance. And you weren't wrong to whisper the Invincibles. I think these last 6 games, I can't even remember, and don't scold me for this, Richard and Lee, but I don't think I can remember the Invincibles doing the way we played in the last 6 games, not to that intensity. It's just unbelievable. And I'm not trying to compare the two very different teams, 2 very different players in each set of teams, but they are playing with such high, as Lee said, high intensity, so aggressive right from the off. I think they wanted to put right what had happened in against Porto, and I was a little bit concerned. I thought, how is that going to affect their mentality, especially after coming off the bounce of 5 wins and playing so well, and then not even getting a shot on target against Porto in a competition where we want to go as far as we can. And I thought, would this have mentally drained and emotionally drained the players coming into Newcastle aren't a bad side. Newcastle are, at one point, they were even being talked about as potential title challengers themselves at the start of the season. And we're thinking, that's always going to be a tough game. And, they've managed to get one over on us recently, especially away, at St. James's Park. And it was going to be a tough ask. And the way we just set about it was unbelievable. I thought it was very clever to bring in Jorginho, so he could sit at the base, and then Rice can be a bit further up in the 8, and then it moves obviously Havertz to the 9, which I think Havertz is flourishing in that position. I didn't have a clue what his role was when he first came on board, and all of a sudden now in the 9 he is flourishing, because he's given the wingers, both Martinelli and Saka, to be more fluid, to move more, not to be so static. And that was evident with the Havertz, his goal himself, where Martinelli was moved so well and a great chip pass from Jorginho, but so well read by Martinelli to collect it, moving from left to right, and then that pass back, and then again intelligence from Havertz to be there, right at the right place. I mean, people can say that was a tap in, but he had to be aware of what Martinelli was going to do with the ball. So I think it's given us so much more dynamism. And you know what? I don't mind if Jesus is left on the bench. And I love Jesus. I don't mind that Zinchenko's left on the bench, because actually, Kiwior, Richard, yourself, even I was a fan of Tierney, traditional left back. But Kiwior can defend, Rich. And he can also, to me, he's almost like a little bit of an amalgamation between Zinchenko and Tierney, because he's got the attributes of both. And I wouldn't change this team. I just wouldn't. I think at the moment it's a winning formula. Why do we need to bring Jesus back into the fold? Only rotate because obviously we've got the Champions League again coming up, the return leg. And if we progress, then I think there'll obviously have to be some rotation to protect the players and any fatigue. But I think this is just wonderful. And yeah, you say that Newcastle played bad, and I'm sure sorry, is it Daniel? Your name? Sorry. He'll have his say on it. But I think Arsenal played so well. I think we didn't allow them to play good. We were on it. You look at Odegaard and Havertz, and the way they were pressing up front and literally suffocating their defenders. They didn't have anywhere to pass to. We were just cutting all the routes out. And I think it was a wonderful performance.
It was, and I mean, Lee, you mentioned the boxing analogy. I actually said during the game that after about 25 minutes, if it had been a boxing match, it would have been stopped because Newcastle were basically on their knees at that point in the game. I mean, Daniel, I did want to come to you because obviously, we've been saying how well Arsenal played, and I do think Arsenal obviously played well. We know that, but I was really surprised at how poor Newcastle actually were. Yes, we didn't allow them to play, but were you surprised at how Newcastle even set about the game, because you would just seem to have no way of idea of how to stop us?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't really make a telling tackle until the last 10 minutes when Shaw put that tackle in on the right hand side, and in the first half, Bruno was way off with his passing. He couldn't pass wind in the first half, never mind passing the ball, And another key thing was Gordon in the first half had his back to goal, so he didn't have that ball over the top for him to run onto, so that negated his threat. But all in all, it was we lacked the intensity which Arsenal came with. We didn't have that, and that was a key factor as well. And obviously the press as well. Arsenal's press was,
it's a difference
on a different level. I mean, our press was not was non-existent, but Arsenal's press, which obviously comes from is a bit of the Spanish methodology, coming in, lose the ball, get it back within 3-5 second rule, whatever it is, and that's what it was. And I mean, I'm not going to look for a few. We weren't at the races. Arsenal were, so I mean, Arsenal from the opening minute, Arsenal came out quick out the traps, and basically controlled that ball in midfield. And I mean, I picked up Jorginho as your player of the match for me, because he literally set every play up. Jorginho was like the conductor of the orchestra.
He was.
Jorginho wasn't. Fair play. And I'm not gonna. It's dead easy to sort of, but you take it on the chin, and hopefully, for defeat like that, my team learn from it. And as I say, there are levels in this game. Arsenal are up there at the minute. Arsenal are where we want to be, and we're not quite there yet, due to FFP, etc. So, but that's my summation of the game in total.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, that I thought Newcastle at least showed a little bit more desire in the second half, didn't they? I mean, I don't know what Eddie Howe said at half time, but Newcastle came out. Yes, I mean, we missed that big chance, didn't we? Kai Havertz very early on in the second half should have scored, made it 3-0, and then we could have gone and won that game 6 or 7, I think, at that point. But then at least Newcastle did show some heart, didn't they? I mean, the second half, they had 1 or 2 moments, could have maybe got a goal earlier than what they did. And if it had been 2-1, it would have changed the whole perspective on the game. And you had a good spell, didn't you, for about 15, 20 minutes?
We did, yeah. That's correct. There was a couple of times when Gordon sort of, bombed down the left, put a ball in. And that's where you miss your Joe Linton's bombing in from midfield. And we didn't have anybody bombing through to take a gamble. So that was another key thing. And our defenders didn't seem to be on the same wavelength. I know one's Dutch, one's Swiss, but it was you could say they were lost in translation.
Yeah, they seem to be. I think maybe having a different goalkeeper behind them maybe didn't. I thought that Karius actually played okay, didn't he? He didn't do much wrong, did he?
No. Yeah, tip off his line, because the sort of one worry I have with Dubravka is he's very hesitant coming off his line, and if your goalkeeper is hesitant coming off his line, especially in the modern game, that is a worry. But Karius did sweep up well. Yeah, I'd agree, and I hope he starts tomorrow. That's what I'll say. I mean, if he doesn't, then there's something wrong. But hopefully, he starts tomorrow.
Yeah, no, he played well, considering it's his first Premier League game for a very long time. He in a difficult game for him as well. Newcastle under pressure all the way through, and he did okay, didn't he? Yeah. But I mean, in the second half, there was that spell, wasn't there, for, I say, 10, 15 minutes or so when Newcastle got at us a little bit. We maybe dropped off our intensity slightly, which is understandable in a game. You're not going to play like that for 90 minutes. It's impossible. Right. It just doesn't happen. And I thought Newcastle had one or two moments. And, I mean, I wasn't overly worried as such, but if they'd got a goal back, Lee, at that point, it could have changed the game, couldn't it? Because we've thrown away 2-0 leads before in big games last season, as we mentioned before. And it kind of worried me. Had Newcastle scored, what might have happened? But in the end, we kind of saw that through, but it was a bit nervy for 5 or 10 minutes, wasn't it? In that second half.
Start of the second half when it's the old cliche, 2-0 dangerously. But it's just because we were so far in front, 2-0. You're thinking it could have been, especially with a Havertz chance. So even though you had that chance, I think Newcastle started really well. Maybe it's just that, as you say, Rich, you come out at the start of the second half, you mentally take a breather. You're thinking, wow, we're up, we're doing well, we're on top, and then we let them come back into the game. They've got dangerous players, and it was kind of you could kind of feel. I won't say there was nervousness, but you just know one goal, and suddenly you're thinking, and then your stress levels go through the roof, and you're starting to look at the clock and thinking, let's just get the game done. You want it, so it completely changes the whole dynamic, doesn't it? When there's one goal, that's always the risk at 2-1. And the added problem is for us, so it's a nice problem to have, Daniel, I'll be honest, is our room for manoeuvre is tiny. We've got no room we've got chasing a club down like City, arguably one of the greatest football teams, that's, I won't say entertaining wise, but certainly churning out results. I've never known a team quite like it. So that's the worry. It's little room for manoeuvre. So one defeat when you've got tough away games to come for us, Man United, Tottenham, and City is fatal. It's virtually fatal. I mean, even now we can win all of our games. I mean, we might. I think would we win the league if we won them all? Potentially, but we certainly won't if we lose at City and they win their game. So there's just no room for manoeuvre. So hence what I'm saying. Like Rich said, even at 2-0, you're thinking you just don't want it to be that game when you're leaving the stadium with your head in your hands, which thankfully we haven't done that much. So it was only at the end of last season, Rich, when it went a bit Pete Tong against Liverpool and West Ham, and then latterly Southampton. So it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's just the only question is as I mentioned when you first come to me was injuries. We just have to keep Declan Rice on that pitch, as well as our centre half. Those three for me, as much as you're dead right, Jorginho has been brilliant. He's been and the last couple of weeks has just been. It's like the manager can't put a foot wrong. He's bringing players back in, and with Sinkio, and everyone's like, well, he's okay. He suddenly looks a player, right? And then Havertz, so hands up. I've been saying it. The other guys, and I've been hearing it a lot. We're not sure about him, as Neil said. Why have we bought Havertz? We've never quite got it. So maybe, Rick, just maybe, as much as all the football we watch, maybe Arteta has seen something in him that he's now bringing to the party, because he does. Before he was drifting around the pitch, what's he doing? I'm not seeing him in the game, but now it's coming together. And like we did say, to be fair, last week, didn't we? It does take time. It does take time for a player. Certainly, Perez, I think, was the example I used. It took him most of that first year. So if the players, if we end up with the player that he promised to be in Germany, you're going to have to Rich, you're going to have to tip your cap to our manager and say, well, he sees something that none of us, because I certainly couldn't see. I was scratching my head.
Yeah.
I'm totally scratching my head. I think I said in 45 years of supporting Arsenal, Daniel, I've never sat and thought, to the extent, why have we bought him? Well, I just could not fathom it.
It's the age-old question, isn't it? I think fans from all clubs think, why do you get him for? But at the end of the day, it's the manager's responsibility to make the call, isn't it? And that's what they get paid the mega bucks for.
Exactly. That's what I said last week. That's why they're on 7 million. I'm sitting there thinking I know it all, but obviously I'm not getting paid 7 million. All right. I'm thinking, well, maybe it is out there. Maybe he's. I'm being flippant, but he's obviously seen something in him, and with the other players as well. It just all seems a bit too good to be true. But the question is, can we do it? United away, Tottenham away, and I know Rich is going to say that, and obviously City away. They're the games where we're going to find out truly. As you said, levels. We're above Newcastle, but I'll be above City. No, we ain't. Right, we're arguably the same level as Liverpool. We're not above City, not in a million. We played City 10 times. We might win 3 or 4, I'd say, max.
One.
We've got a chance against anyone, but we just can't afford any injuries. We can't have enough Dave. They're just a machine. We're not at that level, and it is levels. So we are back. We are the real deal, but if the real deal means we're better than City, well, we're not. So that's the question mark, isn't it? For us,
no, it is. Obviously, it is a question mark, and City, as you say, I mean, they're the benchmark. Absolutely, they are, because of what they've won in the last 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, under Pep, they won trophies before that as well. But the level that they've gone to, that's the benchmark that everybody was going to have to try to match if you're going to have any chance of winning. Certainly winning the Premier League, because over 38 games, Man City have the odd poor game even here. They drew one the other week and everyone gets excited. It's like, but the league's over 38 games. It's not over one game. They've had one poor result. Over 38 games, they've done it year after year, haven't they? They get the results on a consistent basis, but no one else can manage. And I mean, you're right. And I think over the last 6 games, we've been better than City. I don't think there's any question about that. We've been better than anybody over the last 6 games. But the league is over 38 games. It's not over 6 games. And you're right. We've got to find a way to... We're not going to play this type of football in every single game that left of the season. We're not going to be able to do that because of the opposition. We're just not. My concern has always been the same. When Arteta's style, when his way doesn't work, what can we do? And we saw in Porto, nothing changed in that game when it wasn't working. And that's my worry, is that when we do play Man United away, where although they're very hit and miss, it's a place where we don't do very well. When we play Tottenham away, yes, we won there last year, but again, it's a traditional ground that we've struggled in. And of course, City, as we know, City, no one gets an easy game there. Certainly we won't. And can we, if our style isn't going to be imposed as much in those 3 games in particular, can we find that way, a different way to win a game? And that's my only concern, is we don't seem to be able to have a different way to win. We either win in the way that we've won recently, or we don't win at all. Or we lose the game that we lost before. You know what I mean? It seems to be one or the other. And we've got to find that way now. In the next month in particular, next 6 weeks, we've got to find a way to win we've got to find another way to win a game, not just by playing the way that we did on Saturday and playing the way we did against West Ham and against Burnley and against Crystal Palace and even against Liverpool to a certain degree at home, although that game was different to the others again. But I mean, do you think we can do that now, Neil? Because that's always been a question over Arteta, hasn't it? As he got the flexibility to be able to do something different when he has to, because obviously not all games play out the way Saturday's game did. Not all games play out like the West Ham game did they? The Porto game's a typical example of that. You're going away from home and you've got to find a way. And he couldn't do it away in Porto. There's been other occasions where he hasn't done it. Do you think now that do you think he's learned enough to be able to translate that into particularly these 3 away games where we have to pick up points?
It's difficult to say until we actually see it. Each game is so very different. That's the beauty of the Prem. Every team is a different challenge. It holds a different conundrum for your team and your manager to try and find a way through. I will say, look, when we played enterprising football as we did last season, we were literally unstoppable for the first 75-80% of the season. This season, we've started off in a very different manner. We did have some tough games where we had to find a different way, I guess, because we weren't doing anything up front. It wasn't working, was it? The balance, the strength was more in our defence and the defensive control that we had, which obviously shows because we've got, I think, the second best defence in the league, and we've got our stats for that is very, very good. But we weren't really doing anything as prolific up front, but we were still somehow there and thereabouts in the table. We were in touching distance, and all of a sudden, for me, at the turn of the year after that break that they've had, the balance of both the defence and the attack seems to have come together at the same time. So we got the attack of last season and the defence of this season now all of a sudden working very nicely in sync, and that's showing with the results. As to whether that can be replicated against the tougher challenges that lie ahead, and that's all with all due respect to the challenges we've had so far. Because I think any Premiership team is a challenge. I don't believe that there's an easy ride. We've got Sheffield United next, and it doesn't matter that they're on 13 points at the bottom of the table. Yes, on paper we have to win that. We should win that game. But you just don't know, do you? We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what's going to happen. You could get a player sent off that could unbalance the team. You could get an injury that could unbalance the team. Anything can happen. I think we just have to wait and see. But what I will say is, it was this time last year that we started faltering and our season started to shake a little bit, and then eventually it capitulated. This season, we seem to have become stronger at this time. And you remember, if you look back, because you and Lee will know very well, February was always a notoriously bad month for us. We would be in 4 competitions or 3 competitions, and then we'd find ourselves all out of all of them within, February, maybe beginning of March. Every season, it was almost like I think our bogey month used to be November, if you remember back in the day. Yeah. And then it turned into February. And this February has been probably one of our strongest that I can ever remember. Yeah. So I can only I can only bounce off what I've seen in the last 6 games at the moment. I think it looks very, very positive. I think, we didn't have Declan Rice this time last season. That he's massive. I don't care. We can sit there and talk about Saka, Martinelli, Gabriel, Saliba, even Kiwi or Odegaard. We can talk about all those players, but Rice is just phenomenal. He's absolutely phenomenal. And he's the one component for me that was missing last season. And I think Lee's right. I'm gonna stick my neck out, and like I did last season, stupidly. I'm not going to say we're going to win the league. What I'm going to say is I think we're going to be there till the end. But the only thing that will stop it is what Lee said. And touch wood. I'll use my head, Lee. Touch wood. Injuries. It's injuries. It's the injuries to key players. Because even though we have got the Trossards to come on, we've got the Sinchenkos to come on, Jesus is to come on, Partey might come back, Tomiyasu might come back. I still think there's certain positions where we're still fragile if we lose that key player. And it could then unbalance everything. So I think if we stay fit and if we don't get complacent, as in the teams like, because we've got Sheffield United and Brentford next, we should get 6 points from those 2 games. We should do, shouldn't we? But complacency is sometimes an evil. And I just feel that if we just stay professional, no injuries or key injuries, I think we'll be there at the end of the season. That's how I see it.
And to be honest with you, that's kind of, I don't think anybody, no team can really expect, or no fans can expect to win a trophy. You can't expect to. All you want to be able to try and do, in a club like Arsenal, we should be challenging. And when I say challenging, that is what I mean. Taking it to the end of the season, not falling away with 8 games to play. That's not enough. Enough is going, not necessarily winning it, I agree, because winning the league against Man City and Liverpool is tough. It's not easy for anyone, and no one's managed to do it because they're the only 2 teams that's won the league since when was it? When last time Chelsea won it, 2017 was it, or something like that? So
2017, yeah.
So it's a big ask to try and win the league. And if we take it to the last couple of games and we're still in there, to me that's an improvement on last season. That's a step forward. Even if we end up finishing 3rd, which we could do with less points, which we could do, if we've taken it to the last week of the season or the last 2 weeks of the season and we're still in there with a chance, to me, then that is an improvement on last season, and that's fine. That's what we should be aiming for.
Yeah.
Obviously, to win the league is ultimately that's the goal, isn't it? We all want to see that happen, but it's not. Just because you want Arsenal to be successful doesn't always mean you expect to win trophies. What it means is you expect the club to be challenging for trophies.
Yeah,
and you expect to be there or there when it matters.
Yeah.
And last season, for me, we wasn't there when it mattered. We wasn't. We were there for a long time. We were top of the table for months and months and months, wasn't we? But when it actually really mattered, we wasn't in there fighting. We wasn't. It's gone. We'd blown it. And that's what I want to see different this season. And if that means we've got to go to Man United and we've got to find a way, we've got to go to Tottenham and we've got to find a way, then we've got to do that. We've got to go to City and not lose. For a start off, if we can win, I doubt, but we certainly can't lose there. So, these are questions that are still there. But you're right. Challenging all the way down to the last couple of weeks of the season, to me, is a success this season. Absolutely. It would be a success. Not a trophy, no. And that would be disappointing again, but it's not easy to beat either of those two teams over 38 games, is it? It's not. And you're absolutely right, Neil. I totally agree with you, 100%. That's what I want to see this season. And if we fall away again with 7, 6, 7, 8 games to play, and we start dropping points and
that would be very disappointing, Rich. That would be very disappointing.
Even if we get second again, ultimately, that's still not acceptable. It's not enough. It's not good enough. And we've all got to, as fans of Arsenal, we're a big club. We should have those standards. And if the club don't match those standards for another season, then to me, questions need to be asked about it. Why aren't we doing that? What do we need to do to change that, to take up that next step? Because, it's all very well challenging to March and to April. That's great. And if we do that for the next 5 years, that's not progress. That's not success. It might be success at the moment. It might have been success last season. But how do we go from here to that next step, which is either beating City, if that's possible, or at least making, like Liverpool did, taking it to the last game of the season. Liverpool have done that to City 2 or 3 times. And if City keep winning their games, there's nothing we can do because they're ahead of us already. There's nothing we can do. But if we can win all our games,
that's the level we've got to go up to.
Exactly. That's what I want to see. And if we do that, I'll be happy. Even if we come second or third, I'll be happy if we do. If
the one almost without harping, I don't want to harp back and forth. I don't know to last year. I'd love to know. Right, I know we've got to talk about bottling it, and to an extent it was right. But if Saliba, I'm bringing up old arguments, had Saliba stayed fit, there could have been no bottling it. We could have got over the line.
100%.
We'll
never know. I don't know whether was it solely down to Saliba? What was it? 80% down to Saliba. If Saliba would have been in, right, he's such a massive player for us. Would we have still bottled it? And then at least then I would have gone, right, do you know what? Actually, I can't hand on heart with such. It's like taking a big piece. It's like what do they call it? Jenga, the game. It's like taking a big piece out of the bomb right?
No,
losing such a big player.
It wasn't just Saliba, Lee, though. It was Tomiyasu as well.
Yeah, it was. Saliba,
the problem only.
Saliba one reason, Saliba for holding. That's the one for me.
That's the problem, isn't it? The problem wasn't Saliba's injury so much. It was that Holding was the only player we had to replace him.
Exactly.
That was the problem. If we'd got someone better in as a replacement, we may have got through without Saliba. But we had Rob Holding.
And that's the difference between us and City. There it is.
Squad depth.
With another player to come in who's at Saliba's level, we would go to the last game. We would get 92 points. But you take him out and you put in, no disrespect to Rob Holding, he's so far off. And then, as you say, then you've got to look at, well, why? You've had 5 years. We should. I can't think of any reason why we want anyone top quality to step in, right?
Yeah.
No reason. So we should have. It's a big club.
We should have. The money we've spent as well. And I look at it now. You look at the bench the other night, and you were right saying that we don't have the strength. Cedric and El Neni are still on Arsenal's bench, right?
Yeah.
The money that we've spent over the last 4 years, and we've still got them wasting wages on them two. They never hardly play. El Neni come on for 5 minutes just for a laugh because the game was won. It's like, come on. We a serious club or not? We've got those two still on the bench. Every week they're on the bench. Why not get 2 youngsters on the bench?
I would rather have seen a youngster come in for an because end of the day, we are also, when we're in fortunate positions like this where the game is won, We've done it in that dead rubber. That dead rubber really annoyed me That dead rubber game in the fast, we could have played so many youngsters, just to even give them that experience. And people say, yeah, but they went on the plane and had the trip. I said, well, so what? You can't beat. Exactly, you can't beat having your feet on the pitch and experiencing the actual gameplay. Nothing will beat that. Doesn't matter if you're sitting there on the sidelines, being part of that. And that was a complete dead rubber game. It didn't even matter if we lost it because they still would have got second place. And we could have just played a string of youngsters. And it's like even the game against Newcastle. You know, if we'd had a couple of youngsters on the bench rather than only Cedric, which probably most likely are going in the summer. Well, I hope they are because, as you said, it's wages going for nothing. But and Cedric is sitting happy; he doesn't care. He's earning a lovely wage, doing nothing. He's earning for free essentially, apart from the training schedules. And at the end of the day, you know, we need players that are going to be, you know, take an active part in the club going forward, even if it's a couple of youngsters. Put them on. Start giving them.
Look at Liverpool Neil yesterday. Liverpool. There you go. Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about young players. I mean, Daniel, you've got obviously Lewis Miley, who's got in the team because of the injuries that you had. 17, 18 years old, whatever he is, and look how he's done. He's a brilliant young player. He's got an opportunity at Arsenal.
No, yeah, I was going to say Lewis Miley has shown a tremendous level of maturity every time he's come on. It's like he's been playing for a while, not just 17, 18. I mean, as you guys would be along the same thoughts. My thought process with youngsters is, if they're good enough, they're old enough.
Yeah,
simple as you know. Never mind their age. Look, I mean, Pele played in the World Cup final at the age of 17.
Well, even Mbappe. Mbappe played when he was really young, didn't he? He won the World Cup when he was so young. So
Michael Owen.
Exactly.
Yeah, Michael Owen.
Yeah. Well, I've got a story about. I was going to say I've got a story about Michael Owen when he was playing for us. I drove past him on my way to work, and he was in the car. And this was when we were literally headed for the championship season 08-09. And I waved at him, and I think he must have been on his phone, probably to Alex Ferguson or something, saying, "Sign me up, I want to get out of here." And I did that, and he was like that, like, you know, like a face like a smacked ass. So you know, he was he was a miserable sort. I mean, he didn't want to come to us anyway, you know.
No.
But but going back to young players, as I say, if they're good enough, they're old enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Lewis Miley has proven, hasn't he? Because you know, he got a chance. He was given a chance due to the injuries that you had. And what's he done? He's grabbed it with both hands. Who's to say that some of these Arsenal youngsters, given a chance, wouldn't do the same thing?
We wouldn't know.
We don't have a young player as good as Lewis Miley in our under 21 squad. We must have a player as good as Lewis Miley or better.
Of course you will. Of course you will. Must have. Yeah, you know, I mean, I've even under Arsene Wenger. I mean, one thing I've got to give credit to Arsene Wenger for. He was never afraid to play the kids, give the kids a go, and you know, I mean, from what during his tenure, he never really splashed out big, did he? It was one or two star signings, and the rest whether he brought them through, which is what every club should do. You know, I don't understand this. Splashing the cash and like a certain
a bit of both, a bit of both, isn't it? It's a balance, isn't it? A little bit of both.
Getting the balance right. I mean, the ideal team. I mean, I've watched football now for probably as long as you guys, 40 odd years. I mean, basically, you need your artists, ones who've got the craft, and you need your grafters in the right blend. You get that blend right, and you've got the ideal team. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think having players that have come through the academy, I know Arsenal have got, obviously we've got Saka who's in the team, you know, we've got others on the brink, such as, you know, Nelson and Smith Rowe and whatever. And, you know, I think it's important to have players like that, one around the club because they get it, and secondly in the team because it means something more to them. And, you know, in every single club, I mean, Newcastle have always had a history, haven't they, of bringing through young players, you know, from Wolves End Boys Club and whatever, Gazza,
that's right.
Chris Weddle and Peter Beardsley, people like that. And it's a history thing, like with Arsenal. We've had such a history of bringing our young players through into the first team. Merson, Tony Adams, Rocky Rocastle, and you know, it's so important to the heart of the club. And I never want to lose that ever. With all the money and everything else, I don't want to lose that, because it's so important that you've got players that represent your club that have come through from when they were young, have come through the system. It's so important. Every single, in fact, I think they should bring a rule in to say that every club in every match day squad has got to have so many of your players that come through the academy. They can have a minimum amount of your. I mean, you've got 19 players in the squad now on a match day, haven't you? With all the subs, you should have to have 7 or 8 or 9 have to have come through your academy in your match day squad, and that's what that's going to develop the game for England as well, for the England national team in the future, to be able to win trophies, because we'll have a load of young players that are playing more experience in the Premier League, in the Champions League, in all the competitions. That's what we should do. It's so important. It's almost forgotten. Let's go and buy Mbappe for millions of pounds. Let's go and buy this player, buy that player. No, let's actually use our own players that we've got already there. We've invested in already for the last 10 years.
Richard, you've sort of read my mind. You know, I've often sat back and thought, you know, all these mega signings and all that. Hang on a minute, though. That's to the detriment of the local talent.
Yeah.
So if you buy Joe Blogs or whoever from overseas, that means a young lad loses out. But that Joe Blogs from overseas, he'll play a little bit, which is an empty gesture to me. As soon as some Mino Raiola or somebody rings him up, by the way, so-and-so want you, I'll see you're all right. He's gone. So, but the local lad, as you say, be it at Arsenal, be it Newcastle, they'll get the club. When they put, say, the red and white of Arsenal on, or the black and white of Newcastle, they get what it's about. Local lads. They have a...
Dunhill, sorry to interrupt, but it's also not just about that. It's about money, because the overseas player with the name of the shirt is going to then sell shirts. He's going to sell merchandise.
Now, there is that as well,
and of course the top dogs of the clubs, because they're not football clubs anymore. Let's be honest, they're businesses, and they're looking at their bottom line, and they're thinking, well, the chap down the road who's brilliant, he's not going to sell as many shirts as Mbappe or Ronaldo.
There is that, there is that commercial.
That's what makes me sick, because I'm old school, and the football of the old has gone. It has gone. And I'm old. I'm an old, miserable old git. I know that. But at the end of the day,
so am I, mate.
but it is true. There is a truth that there was a certain charm about that before in the olden days. Now it's all about business, money, glamour. You know, it's all about getting on these social platforms and doing TikToks and things and showcasing our club. Well, end of the day, for me, football is football. It's not about TikTok and X and Facebook and Instagram. It's about football. And
exactly.
You're right. And there is that. You have so many of these youngsters. I mean, that's why, in a way, you got that consolation goal. I was glad it was Willock that scored, because he was one of our youngsters. I never disliked him. I always liked Willock, and I was really pleased for him. And it was a good goal. And it was a good goal, to be fair. And I was really pleased for him, but I just, not just for Arsenal, but I think you're right. You're all right. I think the youngsters have to get a chance. They just have to. But it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
No, you're right.
It's going to get worse. I think it's going to get worse.
I almost think the counter argument is I hear what you're saying. You buy a player, name goes on the shirt, you sell millions. But a homegrown player is, if they're brave enough to bring him into the team and they make it, if you don't give them a chance because you keep bringing in the Havertz's and the Rices, but guess what? They're not going to get a chance, right? But you ask any supporter, they'll remember the players that come through Wolves and Boys Club. That will remember your Charlie Georges, right? And
Charlie George.
Smith Rowe, when he come on Saturday, I could feel myself you start not to lose interest in the game. The game's done. But as soon as Smith Rowe come on, I'm thinking, I almost like I got a second win. Going, please come on. And he had that chance. It was clear. Even as supporters, you go up a level. So you get a homegrown footballer who makes it a club. And I do take Neil's argument. He's right. But the levels of love from the supporters, how many shirts would a modern day Charlie George sell today, right? Never mind your Mbappe's. Someone who come from the area. I know we're going a little bit into dreamland, but Celtic did it. You know, every player was born 30 miles from Celtic Park. There's no reason, big catchment area, London, but it's almost like maybe they just don't. It's easier to bring a top name. It's a bit like businesses. I work in business, and they use consultants, right? They use Accenture and KPMG, and they pay £2.5 for a consultant. They don't give someone who's earning a lot less a chance, because guess what? If a big, I know I'm going off track here, but if a big consultancy mess it up, they'll say, well, I've got the best in. I've got KPMG and Accenture and Deloitte, and they couldn't do the job, right? Whereas it may be similar in football. I tell you, go, well, okay, I bought the best players, and we still didn't go over the line. But if you bring in youngsters and it all goes wrong, they'll go, well, there you go. You've obviously, it's your buying policy. So it's the easy thing to do, go for the big name. It's braver to go the other way, right? But if you do it, you get the double bubble of having a successful football team. And guess what? Like Martinelli, they cost $6 million. It can be done. It just needs to be a bit of bravery, I guess.
Yeah. And also the other thing that you made, the point that they don't. It's like sorry, Daniel, I'm going on about Arsenal here, but the North London Derby, the North London Derby, for example, some of these overseas players won't get it. Now, you do have the exceptions. I think Henry was brilliant. He them, and I think he scored every time he played them, didn't he? Some record or something. But there are few. You know, the lads that have come through the academy, the lads which are like fans like us, know about the rivalry, know about that. If they're then on the pitch, they totally understand everything what that game means. It doesn't matter what the form is on either side going into that game, but they get it. But if someone coming from overseas, all due respect to them, it's not their fault. They're from a different country. They play football in a different country, grown up in a different country. They're not going to quite understand it. I think there's
I think a little bit though, Neil, that even now though, even some of the guys in the academy don't really get it the same way as the older generation did. You know, when you're talking about a Tony Adams, or you're talking about, Charlie George we've mentioned, and even the guys that came through at Newcastle in the old days from the academy system. I think the kids in the academy now, my impression of them is that they, because now being a young football player with a professional contract, you're getting paid a lot of money when you're 17, 18 years old, right? A lot of money in relation to what Paul Merson got when he was 17 or 18, what Tony Adams got when he was 17 or 18, right? They're on massive contracts now. They've got flashy cars, they've got big houses, they've got all that lifestyle. And they really care as much as those younger players in the older? I don't know if they do. I want to see more young players given a chance, absolutely. And for me, I wouldn't put a shirt name on the back. I wouldn't put a name on the back of my shirt. But if I was going to, it would be a player that's come through our academy system in this. Exactly. It would be or it'd be Rowe. It wouldn't be Kai Havertz. It would even Declan Rice. So I love Declan Rice. I probably wouldn't get his name on a shirt because he's not one of our players. He plays for Arsenal, but he's not our player. And there's a difference. So I would get Saka now. Would be the only player I would even consider getting because he's one of ours. And in the past, it would always have been the same. In the future, I would like to think that that's what people would buy the shirts with the young academy players in the team. Because that's what I would hope. I mean, my personal wish would be they scrap all that squad numbers altogether. You have 1 to 11, and you don't have a name on the back. So, but they won't do that because they won't sell the shirts. So they won't do that.
That's right.
That's the reason why they don't. But I would personally go back to that all day long.
It's a lot simpler. A lot simpler than none of this 45 and 50.
I know. 1 to 11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even now people talk about the positions on the pitch in a shirt number. He plays number 8 or he plays number 10. Well, no, he doesn't because he's number 52 or he's number 29. You know what I mean? Where the number of the position that they're playing in then, and everyone knows where they are.
No, exactly.
I know all these football shirt numbers now, like takeaway, like numbers you see on your Chinese takeaway, aren't they? You know,
chicken books, lemon chicken, number 36, lemon chicken.
Yeah, lemon chicken or Indian takeaway. Obviously, I can say that being of Indian origin, but it is. I mean, it's like the youngins now wouldn't understand this 1 to 11 lock, would they? You know,
no, they wouldn't.
Like Cody was number 1. Yeah, one thing we're all recognize, like Shilton or Clements or whoever played for England had number 1 on the back. End of.
Simple.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's got confused now, hasn't it? Football's now more confusing. It used to be very simple. Now it's very confusing.
It is confusing
for me.
Yeah,
it is confusing. It's over confusing.
I think also one thing we have to remember as well. Whatever we see in football now a lot of it isn't necessarily new. It's all been adapted. I'll give you an example. Tiki-taka football, Barcelona now. if all of you probably will not remember the 1988 Euros, Holland.
Yeah.
How they moved that ball around was basically tiki taka, wasn't it? Cruyff takes that, puts it into Barcelona, and reinvents it.
Total Football was the Ajax, wasn't it? Total Football from Johan Cruyff going to Barcelona, and it was
keep the ball turns into tiki taka, and this high pressing up and all that. I remember I went to see John Anderson, who used to play for Newcastle and obviously Republic of Ireland international. He's saying this, this high press and all that. Jack Charlton was doing that with the Republic of Ireland back in
Ian Rush did it every game 40 years ago. That's what Ian Rush did. He made a living from not only scoring goals, but he was straight on a fullback, same as whoever's playing the other side. All this new, obviously the keepers never used to throw it out, did they? And play it from the back because you'd have been screamed at. What are you doing? Don't play across the front of your body.
That
has changed.
That has changed, and I think that's because our England team. I know Southgate's got them playing out from the back, etc. But it's not natural to them. I feel.
Yeah, not to Harry Maguire.
No. Yeah, not Harry Maguire. No, exactly.
No.
No, it's not natural. You're right. It's not natural to English players to do that. But it's going to probably start because a lot of the academies now, Arsenal under 21 play the same sort of style as the first team. They're playing it out from the back, and maybe the future is going to be that everybody's going to be more comfortable doing it because they've been doing it from when they were young, and maybe that's going to change, and maybe teams will become more, and maybe the young English players that's going to come through and play for England in a few years' time, maybe they will be more. I personally think we should ditch that as well and just go back to actually get the ball forward at the quickest opportunity and put it in the box, and then you might score a few more goals. I mean, we're scoring a lot of goals at the minute by doing what we're doing, but it's not. To me, that's not sustainable. Get the ball in the box constantly, and you're more likely to score goals.
You should be able to do both. I mean, what was it? The Charles Hughes score, wasn't it? Most goals are scored with, I think it's 3 or less touches, right? One ball forward, knock it on and score. So what about a bit of both? And I've said it. I say it every time ever. Like City did to us at the Emirates last season. They were playing their football, but every now and again they just knock a ball over the top. And Gabriel was holding on to Haaland, and it was so dangerous because you can't relax because you wait for that ball. So you got to do both. You can't just go one or the other.
It's like plan A, plan B, isn't it?
Mix it up throughout the game. You can't just be obsessed with one style because it obviously used to work. Otherwise, Wimbledon wouldn't have gone from the Southern League to winning the FA Cup. That's what
I remember.
That'll never happen again, though, Lee. That'll never happen again, will it?
No.
Winning the FA Cup maybe, but Wimbledon doing what they did to go from non-league to the top 6 in the top league in English football. That'll never happen again now. It just won't do.
No, it's tough. Luton, though, Rich. I watched Luton about 9 years ago play Stevenage. It can be done, but it's just.
But Luton aren't going to finish in the top 6 and win the FA Cup, are they? They're going to always battle against relegation, and they'll probably get 2 years in the Premier League, and then they'll be relegated again. Won't they?
You're right. They're not going to win anything. They'll get to a final, no chance.
And Luton were, a top division club, weren't they, before the Premier League? It's not like they came from nowhere. They've had a lot of problems and they've gone all the way down and come back again. But Wimbledon had always been a non-league club, and they come from nowhere and got all the way to the top and won. I mean, that is like a, they made a film out of '89, fever pitch and stuff like that. But the actual real fairy tale was what Wimbledon did. Really, it just wasn't as glamorous, was it? It wasn't as glamorous the way that they did it because of their style of football and the way going about it.
I remember, was it Laurie Sanchez? Laurie Sanchez.
Yeah, Laurie Sanchez.
It was intimidation. They'd intimidate. They'd have, fashion news players like that were just violent.
There were thugs, really. I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, barring Lurch, who obviously later went on to play for us, but there were 10 thugs against 11 against 10 footballers.
They could play football as well, though. They could play football as well.
Yeah, Terry Phelan, unbelievable footballer, wasn't he? Terry Phelan.
Yeah. And the other one who again went on to play for us, Glenn Hodges, was a decent player on the ball as well.
Nigel Winterburn that we bought, he played football from Wimbledon. A lot of them went on to bigger clubs, didn't they? Because that's how good they were at football as well. Yes, they could mix it as well when they needed to, but they were actually good footballers, half of them players, and and that's what you needed to have. As you said, it's a mixture, isn't it? It's been able to do more than one different thing, and that's what Arsenal, I think, still struggle with a little bit. We're very one-dimensional, and that one dimension is good when it works, and when it doesn't work, that's my issue still. But we'll see what happens over the next over the next few weeks in particular. But
the test is when you go 1-0 down away at Man United or 1-0 down at Tottenham. There's the test, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. A 1-0 down at City, whatever it is, you know, and that's the test, isn't it? Have we got that character? Have we got, has Arteta got the tactical know-how to turn these games around? We'll see, because
everyone was getting carried away Saturday. Everyone was getting really carried away, done. It was like, you know, you was expecting the parade down Upper Street, down Islington Town. Oh, it was, and it's great. We love enthusiasm. We love to win, and we like to over celebrate. So, as you know. So they say. It's not true. We don't. We celebrate because we just beat Liverpool. But it's just it is the real tests are still to come, and that's not being.
But it's nice to be in it. It's nice to be in the mix.
Exactly.
It's good for football. It's the way the league is this season. That's good for football. It keeps not only the relevant clubs fans interested, it also keeps the neutrals interested as well. Because I remember this lady she was off a Burnley podcast made a very good point. She said, City running away with the league every season is not good for football. I quite agree with that. The way it is now, even if we get another, like we did in, was it season 11-12 when City won it for the first time, the Aguero moment. Hey, I tell you what, I know it probably be no good for your tickers if you guys are still in there, but tell you what,
you remember it. You remember it for years, memorable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it would be good for football if someone other than Man City or Liverpool won the league. Anyway, I mean, regardless of the fact that it's Arsenal's the only other team that can realistically do it at the moment, I think it would be good for football. I've spoken to fans of other clubs who say most neutral fans want Arsenal to win the league because they don't want City or Liverpool to win it. You know, so we've kind of got the neutral support maybe at the moment. I mean, if we carry on the way we're going, if Arteta carries on doing what he does when we lose games, then I think we might lose some of that neutral support because he's not helping himself sometimes. But I think at the moment we have got that, and it's unusual because normally Arsenal aren't the team that people want to do well generally. So it's quite nice at the moment that we do seem to have support from everywhere else, or not everywhere else. Certain clubs won't support us, obviously, but we're getting a lot of neutral support, aren't we, at the moment? And I think most people would prefer Arsenal to win the league than the other two. So, you know, whether or not that's going to make any difference, ultimately, I don't know. But it's nice to feel that from other clubs now, which we haven't really had much. We don't generally get that, do we?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I mean, I'm going to say stuff, but I've always enjoyed the way you guys, Arsenal have played the game, and they play the game the right way. You know, in terms of you know, comfortable on the ball, possession football, and what I saw on Saturday was, you know, definitely a different level, and you know, I cannot but what's the word? Admire it, basically. I mean, I'd had a couple. I mean, the game was gone for us. I'd had a couple of buds, so I thought might as well enjoy.
You're very brave coming on with three Arsenal fans. So hats off to you for especially as you just taken the bashing that you took. Well, I've got one question for you. The game at the Emirates last. Sorry, Rich, if I can ask. The game.
Cool.
Cheers, mate. The game at the Emirates last year did Eddie Howe to tell the players to fall on the floor, play act, wait, to the extent that they did? Because I've never seen it. There was one point towards the end of the game, Newcastle had a corner. Three players went down on the floor. I've never seen that before. So is that a direct? This might be a stupid question. Direct instruction from Eddie Howe, because you look at him, he looks like butter will melt in his mouth, and he's a good manager, a good guy. But he said to them, right, you've got to absolutely. You were defending a lot better last year, but as an extra layer, did he tell you just to waste time, go over, fall on the floor? Do you think?
Quite possibly. I'll tell you why. He's probably got that from the Diego Simeone, because he spent time with Diego Simeone.
Oh yeah,
while
he did, didn't he? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so he's probably, because when he was at Bournemouth, when he was at Bournemouth, probably didn't do much of that, but he went and spent time with Diego Simeone. So it's quite possibly he's sort of thought, well, I'll use some of these tricks here,
Yeah.
So
use anything,
quite possible.
Yeah.
He should have done it on Saturday, shouldn't he? He should have done it more on Saturday. You might not have got
But we didn't give him a chance. We were like, bang, bang, bang. It was all over before they even had
it was. It was
all over. The game was over.
Yeah, if Saturday had been a what's it called, World Championship boxing, that was sort of a round 2, round 3 knockout. That's
towel in. Yeah, throw the towel in.
No, it was, and it was what it was. But I mean, last season, that's why I was quite surprised at how Newcastle set about that game on Saturday, because having watched the way Porto had played against us during the week, I'm sure Eddie Howe would have watched that game as preparation.
Oh yeah, he would have. Yeah,
you would have thought to yourself, right, this is what we need to do against Arsenal. What Porto did: commit silly little fouls, stop Arsenal getting into any rhythm, and a bit similar to what you did last season. And Newcastle did not. Yes, we played better, but Newcastle didn't do any of that. They couldn't even commit a foul in that first half. They couldn't get near us to commit a foul.
Also, there was the thing of also what maybe held the players back. I'm not making this as an excuse, but the fact that Bruno was close to a 2-match suspension, one more booking. Gordon's close to suspension, so that probably did play a bit on their minds as well. I don't know, but that will have been a factor, because if we've got those 2 suspended, we are knackered.
I mean, I guess you've got issues. I mean, just on Newcastle, I mean, obviously Eddie Howe's done a great job in the time he's been there, but do you feel that he can still take the club forward, or do you think maybe he took them as far as he can, and if Newcastle are going to become regular Champions League qualifiers, if they're going to regularly be challenging, where they should be with the money that they've got invested, do you think they think that Eddie Howe is the man to do that? Or a bit like Arsenal, I don't think Arteta necessarily is. Do you think Eddie Howe's the man for Newcastle to get you where you want to be? Or do you think maybe he's took them as far as he can, and maybe he'll be off at the end of the season and they'll bring in a more experienced top-class manager?
No, this season's been a bit of a what's the word?
Anticlimax.
Taking a dip this season, anticlimax. Obviously, the injuries haven't helped. I'm not going to use them as excuses, because with the injuries we've had, it's sort of put the kibosh on our ability to change a game 70 minutes for the last 20 minutes or so. For example, I'll give you an example. Like in the first game against Aston Villa, first game of the season, we managed to bring, I think what we brought on, that was Isaac, Wilson, and I can't remember who the other, but we had quality subs to bring on. But those injuries might have been, yes, I think it was, Harvey Barnes, because he scored in that game. But this season, with the injuries, we haven't been able to do that. And that's, and he's had to juggle his resources, in some cases, really flog them. The players have been flogged without getting much of a rest, I think it'll be a bit harsh to say bye Eddie, he has your P45 at the end of the season. But obviously, what PIF are thinking all the way in Saudi Arabia, who knows? Only they know. So we shall wait.
They must have ambition, mustn't they? They must have ambition to make Newcastle top. They must want Newcastle to become the next version of Man City. That must be the aim, surely.
Oh yeah. I mean, when you watch our documentary on Amazon, Yasser Al Rumayyan, the chairman, said we want to be number 1. So if that means culling Eddie at the end, who knows? But there again, everybody's saying, Eddie out. Then who do you bring in? Who's out there to bring in?
Yeah, but that's the argument that we face at Arsenal. When we say Arteta out, who can you bring in? There's managers out. Every club's got a manager. Every single club has got a manager. You can't tell me there's nobody better out there. Of course there is.
Yeah. Daniel, don't go down to Man City. Don't start cooking the books now. All right. Don't do Man City on us. Start playing managers.
Yeah, thing is, I'm an accountant myself. I can. Yeah, a bit of massaging going on wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
You know?
a few provisions.
Not that I'll do it. Not that I'll do it.
No. A few over accruals, right, and a few prepayments and a few provision for bad debts. We're losing Neil and Rich for this, but
well, it's all this.
It's my field as well, Lee. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Is it?
Yeah. It's and not forgetting the amortization as well. That
and the goodwill, negative goodwill. Newcastle must have a bit of negative goodwill.
Well, it was after Saturday.
No.
I mean, that is going to be obviously the plan, isn't it? And I think everybody, all of the sort of so-called top six, if you like, big six clubs, which is a bit ridiculous anyway, but everybody's maybe a little bit concerned that Newcastle are going to get involved in all of that eventually. I know last season maybe we thought it'd come a bit early, finishing the top four and whatever, but I think it's going to take a bit longer. It took Man City about 4 years to win the Premier League, didn't it, from when they got their investment, and it's not going to be any quicker for Newcastle, is it necessarily?
No, it's not. It's to be honest, as I say, if we're going to get there, patience is needed. Rome wasn't built in a day, and what we don't want to, because if you think about it, this is obviously before your FFP days. Remember what happened with Blackburn? Jack Walker's millions coming. They won one league title, played in the Champions League and then
down they went.
So it's got to be sustainable. It's got to be sustainable. Absolutely. It needs to be. I mean, and I think maybe in a way what our Arsenal have done, it is probably a good way, because we haven't kind of, we've tried to stay within the FFP rules as we can. And we've tried to do it a little bit more slowly, and it's called for patience. And sometimes it's difficult to have patience when you see other clubs making
success,
more progress. Having
success. It is. It's as I said, patience is a virtue, isn't it? But it's a bloody hard virtue when it comes to football.
Exactly.
It is. And you don't really get it in football, do you? I don't think, managers don't get a lot of patience. That if results don't go their way, generally they're out. Although it seems to have slowed down, doesn't it? There don't seem to be as many managers this season, for example, as in previous seasons. It took ages for one to go. There's not been many, has there? There's only been maybe 3 is there this season in the Premier League? I can think of. Is it 3?
Well, maybe that's to do with FFP as well. Maybe that's FFP because it's another payment, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Maybe so. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
Here's something I mentioned on a radio. I put to a radio show panel, a North East Footy Breakfast. We have all these. Manager gets sacked. They bring somebody in from the outside. Yeah. Would you say that clubs should maybe start looking at having your manager, but having a number 2 who we can train up like a boot room type, what Liverpool used to do in the 70s and 80s? I'm surprised nobody's looked at that.
No. Like the boot room method did work, didn't it? They had 4 managers, I think. Fagan, Paisley, obviously Shankly.
Would that work now, though? Because you got to think, if you've got, Arteta was number 2 for Pep, wasn't he? For what, 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, right? And he was a number 2 there, and he learned a lot of things, obviously, from Pep. But you saw under Fergie, you had Steve McLaren never really became a top number 1. Brian Kidd never really became a top number 1. And I don't know how you can get a number 2 who's going to become a great manager like your number 1 could be. I mean, the hope is that Arteta is going to become that, maybe, but I'm not convinced at the moment. But maybe he'll prove me wrong. But it's difficult, isn't it? There's not too many number 2s that have ever gone on to become, apart from those ones at Liverpool. But Liverpool had the structure there, didn't they? Anyway,
they did that.
Liverpool in them days, couldn't they? Pretty much anybody could have. I mean, Joe Fagan won league titles. Joe Fagan, wasn't he the cook man or something? Do you know what I mean? So anybody could succeed at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't exactly. No, it's more difficult now, isn't it?
It probably is now.
They're all of a certain age, weren't they? Fagan, Paisley, Shankly. They must have been 50 plus. Together, so I guess it's more natural. You'd never get that now, would you? But
it
was just right time, right place, isn't it?
And I think players have too much power now, anyway, don't they? What's going on, the wages and stuff. Players have all the power now, as before the managers had the power.
That's why you got Rich. That's why you got to put your foot down. Aubameyang. out the door. I know
that's it.
he played up. I know you ain't a fan, but if I was a manager and there was a player doing some of the stuff that he was doing, goal scorer or not, and his goals had dried up, I would have binned him all day long. You can't have it. You can't have someone in that. It's been proved in dressing rooms. They're just because they'll talk to 2 or 3 players, and then before you know it. So that's one thing I do agree with Arteta on that, getting rid of him. That's probably do a whole show on that.
Bad apple.
Replace him then. Replace his goals then.
Yeah, but you can't. It wasn't possible. If it wasn't possible, I'd still say the negative of having him is so detrimental for in the whole squad because the younger players are going, well, he can get away with it. Look, he's 28. He plays international football. He's strolling in on a 400 grand contract, and he's not even scored.
But then he scored 2 goals in a semi-final, 2 goals in a final that won us the only trophy Arteta's won.
Yeah, but that was before he got the contract, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Well, he was still getting paid a few quid before that, though, wasn't he? He wasn't like he was still the top. He was still one of the top earners at the time.
Yeah. What is it with Arsenal? I know doing another Arsenal new contracts. New contract, and that's it. Feet up. I mean, if only that worked like that for us to work, eh? We'd put in a good 6 months and go right. I'm drinking pina colada now, everybody.
Yeah,
I still want my money.
I thought it.
For me, the connection between the Aubameyang contract and the Ozil contract is the manager. The manager didn't know how to manage those players. That's the problem for me. Not necessarily just the players and the contract. Yes, I'm not saying that wasn't a factor, but to me, the manager couldn't manage those 2 players. He didn't know how to manage them. So the only thing he could do was to freeze them out and in the end get rid of them and buy their contracts out because he didn't know how to manage them. And it's not just those 2. There's been other players he struggled to manage as well that he either had or he bought in. Some he bought in himself and couldn't manage them. William, for example.
We just don't know. We don't know to the extent that it maybe tried and just thought, like, I'm wasting my time here. We all know it work. You make an effort to work with people. But all
I would say is when you look at the type of characters that Arsenal had, the Aubameyangs, Ozil, players like that, Lacazette, and you look at the character of the players we've got now, they're very, very different, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there's not one. All of our players from. Well, I'll say all of them, pretty much the starting 11 plus maybe 3 or 4 others on the bench. They're all exactly the same person, aren't they? They've got the same personalities.
True.
They pretty much play the same type of football. They're not different at all. And they're the characters that Arteta can manage, and he can manage them really well.
Yeah.
He struggles with anybody else. Anybody else he seems to struggle with in their personality.
He said that he's a young manager. Maybe you're right, Rich. I think I agree with you. Maybe there is an element where he's thinking, I can't manage. Stan Bowles has just been in the news. Rest in peace. But that type of player who's going to give it, or an Eric Cantona, maybe it's just too much like hard work for a young man. If he was 50 odd, maybe he could deal with it and pull him aside. Say, listen, I'll give you a bit of leeway. But
most successful teams have a player like that. Most succcessful teams have a player like that.
They do. Yeah, you're right.
The manager has to manage them. He has to manage them properly.
Yeah.
Most look at even Man City. Right? I know Man City's players are quite similar in character to Arsenal's in some way, but they've still got 1 or 2 of those type of characters, haven't they? Rodri, for example. They've got 1 or 2 others. They've got Jack Grealish in their squad. I know he doesn't play as much now, but
Rich, you made a good point, mate. I'm not so sure that they have, because who's the City player who there's been a couple of City players who've given Pep a little bit of whether it's back chat or a hard time. They've been binned off. There was a player last year, wasn't there? For City, Cancelo. Unbelievable. So maybe he's sitting next to a guy. You tend to copycat, right? So maybe there is an element. Jack Grealish, he's not the great Jack Grealish they signed because they're asking him to run back and do work. So I don't know. He's not in the team. So when you look at that, you've made an interest. You compare the 2 teams. I'm struggling to think of a Maverick as such.
There isn't. I would say a Maverick, but they've got players that are. I mean, that's why they're more successful, because they have got they've got a Rodri in there. We don't have a Rodri type player, do we? We don't have
Declan Rice.
He's not the same, is he? Rodri will literally kill his granny to win that ball and score a goal. He'll do anything. We're not like that. We don't have players like that. You know, Rodri is a horrible player, but he's a player that you need in your team.
Cynical.
You want him on your
they've
side.
got players like Kevin De Bruyne, who's such a talented player. I'm not saying we haven't got players of similar talent, but he'll kick the shit out of people. Kevin De Bruyne, he will. He gets stuck in, and he's nasty. He's a nasty player, quality, but he's nasty. We don't have that. We have quality players, and that's all we have. We don't have that nasty side. And I think you need 2 or 3 players in that team who will do anything to win, whether it's roll around and pretend to be injured, whether it's kicking opposition players and pulling their shirts and stopping them from playing.
We had Xhaka, didn't we? Xhaka was a bit like that. He was a bit
Xhaka, a bit like that. Yeah, he's the only one, and even he wasn't on that same kind of level as Rodri, for example. He was the most that we had, the closest we had, and I think every team needs 2 or 3 of those. Every successful team.
We've never replaced Vieira.
No.
The Vieira-Keane rivalry was, I think, one of the best player rivalries in the Prem. Very much like I guess from a manager's point of view, the Wenger Fergie one. We've never replaced him, but I've listened to all of what you just said, and I agree. But I also think that if somehow we do go all the way and we lift the title, he's done it without those kind of players, and I'm not going to complain. End of the day, if we lift the title, we lift the title, and if we lift the title playing good football as well, that's a massive bonus. I mean, at the end of the day, there's certain games we just want to get that one goal, no matter how it's scored, whether it's an own goal or the goalkeeper somehow scores it. Who cares? As long as we get the win and get the 3 points. But it's also nice. It's a bonus to actually see some good football, some good movements, and not have that maverick player. If it works, then we're going to give him a pat on the back. I mean, I know Terry won't, but
but my worry is that's not enough to win those games that you're mentioning. Man City win those games because they've got the players that know how to win those games and what they have to do to win horrible and win ugly and win nasty. And I don't see that enough in this team. We're going to find out in the next few weeks. Of course we are.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
But it would be nice. I agree with you. It would be nice if we could do it your way, Neil. It would be nice if we could do it your way. I'm not sure if we can. That's my worry.
Let's see. Time will tell. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm going to have to leave you, but I've really enjoyed it as always. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you, Daniel. Absolutely.
Lovely to meet you too, Neil.
And hopefully see you soon again. Maybe one day on another Newcastle Arsenal game. But Rich and Lee, as always, an honour and a pleasure.
Give your score prediction for Sheffield United first, Neil.
3-0, and I hope Martinelli scores. Yeah,
I think that's what I've got on me Super 6.
There you go. What are yours before I go quickly? What are yours, Rich and Lee?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think 7-0. Honestly, Sheffield United are horrendous. They are horrendous. They're horrendous. If we get an early goal, we could score 10. Honestly, but I'll stick with 7.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Newcastle scored 8 there, and that rubbish.
We scored 8.
Exactly.
Wow. All right, I'll take that. Blimey, Richard. Wow.
I'll go 2-1. I'm going to go 2-1.
Wow, you're not going 2-1.
Race into a 2-0 lead, and then they score. We get nervy. I've got to be different, and I can't go for the big win.
Brilliant.
You're seriously not going 2-1.
6-0, really.
2-1, Arteta should be. If we only win 2-1, Arteta should be sacked on the spot. That would be embarrassing. I've ever seen in my entire life.
Rich is inserting clauses into Arteta's contract now. Look, if you don't score a set, you will be sacked.
You'll be sacked. Brilliant.
You're not wrong.
All right, guys. Listen, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers,
thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks to everyone in the chat as well. Lovely to see and hear from everyone. I'll see you soon.
Mate.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Take it easy.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
But no, I mean, we should hammer Sheffield United. Let's be honest; they are.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, you should. They are down. They're down. They're as good as down now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're definitely going to get relegated, and they're doing it in good style as well, aren't they? I mean, they lost 5-0 at home recently to Aston Villa. They lost 8-0 at home to you guys. If we don't score a bundle, we won 5-0 at Burnley, we won 6-0 at West Ham. I'm just thinking 7 just because it's a number we haven't won at yet. We won 5-0 at 6-0, we need to win 7-0 now. Yeah, Sheffield United is the perfect team to do that against.
Sequence, keep it in sequence.
Yeah, but
it's a little bit out of sequence, but
you make a good point. That's the way football goes, right? When we spanked Burnley and everyone was going, "Oh, we'll win 3-0 away in Porto," but generally you'll have a sequence, and then it will just how it works. It just just stops, and it just stops for us suddenly. We have one shot on target, and sometimes in football you go, right, we've done that. You know it's coming. It's laws of probability. So I went 1-0. I think, Rich. My prediction was, because you don't just keep steamrolling teams game after game.
No,
it does.
No, it doesn't happen like that. No, it doesn't.
You're right. But Sheffield United are terrible. Sheffield United are terrible. Yeah, and I just think that Sheffield United, they'll know obviously what form we're in. They'll know what a difficult game it is. And I just feel if we score in the first 10 or 15 minutes, which we're likely to do, I think their heads will just go. Like they did against Newcastle, like it did against Aston Villa recently. They just won't have the fight. They won't have the stomach and the fight.
Unless Rich, they get an early goal from a corner or a free kick, and they go 1-0 up, and then the gets after 20 minutes, and then as fans, we're starting to think, oh no.
We have got a terrible record at Sheffield United as well. We haven't got a great record.
Warnock. We never got any change out of Neil Warnock, did we? Very rarely.
It's always. I mean, no, we won their last time they were in the Premier League, but they were terrible then as well. And I don't know. We haven't got a great record in Sheffield in general. It's Sheffield Wednesday either, but they are the worst. They are one of the worst Premier League teams I think I've ever seen. Every time I watch them, I just think, how on earth are you in the Premier League? It's embarrassing.
Rich, Monday night though, wet and windy Monday night. So Monday game, isn't it?
And the last time we played them in the Premier League, it was a Monday night, and we lost 1-0, if you remember, when Emirates was in charge. But they were a better team then, Sheffield United, than they are now. They were a much better team. They are just terrible now, honestly. They are awful. And I'll be surprised if we haven't wrapped that game up in 20 minutes.
Don't pocket, Rich. Don't pocket. Slow down.
It would just be a case of... I think we'll get 2 or 3 early goals, right? And it's just, do we then want to go on and really embarrass them in the way Newcastle did? Or do we think, oh, well, let's just keep possession for the next 70 minutes and not really do much? That might be what happens in reality. And it might end up 3-0 or something like that. But if we really want to go for it and we think, right, we've scored all these goals away from home, let's do it again. If they're in that type of mood, in that mood, we could get 10, honestly. We could score 10 against them.
Yeah.
We won't, obviously, because no one's ever done that in the Premier League. And I'm sure we won't be the first. But I think the potential's there if we really wanted to do it. I honestly think we could, because they are just not good enough for the Premier League at all. But anyway, it's a good game to have, isn't it? At this moment in time, when we keep winning, the one team you'd want to play is Sheffield United, isn't it?
Yeah,
you just want to play them. We scored 5 against them at home, didn't we, as well? So
that's right.
I'm sure there'll be some goals. But if we win 2-1, we win 2-1. We'll take it.
2-1, 3 points.
It's not exactly what we would expect from that game, to be honest.
It's tick though, Rich. Tick, 3 points, game less. That's what it's all about, really.
I wasn't bothered that we beat West Ham 6-0 or Burnley 5-0. The 3 points was more important. Just to win the games. But once you're in a position, once you're 2 or 3 up, you think, you know what, let's actually get some goals now. Because the game's won, you can relax. You haven't got to worry anymore. You only worry when.
Right. Thanks for having me on, Rich. I must go now.
Go, Daniel. Oh, sorry, mate.
That's right. Yeah, brilliant. No, really nice chatting to you.
Nice to meet you, Daniel. Top man.
Cheers, man.
Hopefully. Then there was 2, Rich.
Well, we're still here. But no, I mean, so I don't care how many goals we win by. It's winning the game, isn't it? But when you've wrapped the points up and you've won the game early on, you might as well then get some goals.
That's what we've done. West Ham, I was disappointed against West Ham. I know 6-0, but West Ham, I think we seriously could have got 8 or 9, couldn't we? And that would have been something special.
4-0 at half time. We got all the goals at the end. It's like West Ham were gone. They were gone.
I've never seen a team so gone. I think as them the Saka goal when he just cut on his left foot. They just let him shoot. It was like training.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, that's the only thing that it's been great that we've won them games by a big score. But the way that West Ham just folded in that game, the way Burnley just aren't good enough. No. They kind of folded a bit. Newcastle on Saturday folded, really, didn't they? Under the pressure that we put them under. That's all very well and good, and I'm sure Sheffield United, if we put them under that sort of pressure, will crumble. Absolutely, they will, because they're not good enough. Mate.
But nothing for granted.
But then we have got Brentford. I don't think Brentford will crumble. They're made of a little bit different stuff, Brentford, aren't they? That'll be a tougher game, but then it's a game we should win. But then we have got, like you said, we've got these really difficult away games to come in, you know, and we're not going to, those teams aren't going to crumble. You know what I mean? They aren't going to crumble, are they? And that's what I want to see us show another side to our game. That
we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it,
No,
I want to see that. I'm desperate to see it. I'm just not convinced that we will. I'm not convinced.
The kind of game that we used to win away when we won in 89 and 91, we could go away and win 2-1 at Liverpool or 2-1, or even under Wenger, right? Beating Liverpool, Man United away. And as you say, we always used to win at Spurs, you know, back in the day. It's only been the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years. It's suddenly become harder to win at White Hart Lane, isn't it, for some reason?
I mean, Tottenham have got better, to be fair. You know, they had... they were a better team than us for a few years, really, weren't they? They were above us in the league and whatever. So it was always going to be more difficult. But we always did do. Well, we won there every year, didn't we? For years.
Yeah.
Always
win, Jerry Francis. That was the last. That was the last time they beat us, wasn't it? For about 20 odd years.
That's right. Yeah. Chelsea. We always used to beat Chelsea, didn't we? Chelsea as well.
Chelsea. Yeah. We always. Yeah. We had the sign over Chelsea, home and away. Tottenham.
Yeah.
But drastically changed. As you say, Tottenham have got a lot better. Obviously, Chelsea were brilliant, but Tottenham definitely, unfortunately, now with the team that they've got, the stadium and the money, they're always going to be top 6 now. You would have thought.
Yeah, they are, but you know, hopefully, we'll be still above and up.
Yeah,
you know, that's where we should be.
Yeah,
and I'm sure we will be the way things are shaping up. But who knows? Who knows? We should. And Wayne there's mentioned about Ben White. He's maybe one of them type of players, proper wind-up merchant. He is, but he's not on that same sort of level of that kind of dark arts, is he? Really? No. He's just not, is he? Wayne says they're challenging for a league with Havertz in it, though. Beat City in the league first time since 2015 with a Havertz assist in a 1-0 victory. Yeah, we did, but I've said this before, and obviously beating City was a great result. There's no doubt about that. It was brilliant. But beating City once in, 10 years?
Yeah, a blue moon, to quote their song.
It isn't enough, is it? What we've got to do now is we've got to go to the Etihad and not lose.
Lose.
And that's 2 games without losing. The next season we've got to beat them at the Emirates again.
Yeah.
We've got to start doing this on a more one-off. It was great, but it's not. It doesn't mean anything.
No.
You've got to get the context right. Can we go to the Etihad and get a result?
Yeah.
Let's see. Can we beat them next season? Let's see. Yeah. You know, we've done all right against Liverpool 2 seasons in a row. We've got 4 points off Liverpool. Yeah. That's good. That's 2 seasons running. We've done that. They've knocked us out of the cup, but okay, they were lucky maybe. But that's the type of consistency we've got to start showing now, season after season, picking up results in those games, not just doing it once. Beating City once, so that you said the first time since 2015.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
But if we don't beat them again for 10 years, it won't mean anything, will it?
They were walloping us at home for about 4 seasons on the bounce, weren't they? 3-0.
3-0,
3-0.
3-0 every season, wasn't it? It was 3-0 every season.
Right, Rich, I've got to push off. I think I'll have my din-dins.
All right, mate. Yeah, no worries.
Have some food. I'm starving. I went for a little run earlier, so I can feel it now. Need some calories.
Well, you know, when you go for a run, you've got to put something back, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I had a cup of tea and a bit of porridge, but now I need some real food. A bit late now, really, to start eating, but I'm hungry. I need sustenance.
Well, you do. I'll crack on then. Right. All right, mate. Well, thanks for coming on.
I enjoyed that. Thanks, Rich. Thanks for asking me on. That was enjoyable.
No worries at all. We'll speak again soon, probably next week, I expect.
Yeah,
although not next Monday, of course, because the game's on next Monday, isn't it? So we'll
Monday night, isn't it? FA Cup the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll have to change the night. We'll sort something out anyway.
I'm sure. Mate. No worries. Cheers, Rich.
No worries. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, mate. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
He can't go. Look, he's stuck with us. Oh, he's gone now. I mean, that was a good show, wasn't it? Good to have Daniel with us as well. Of course, giving a Newcastle perspective on things as well. There's been quite a few comments coming. We'll go through a few of them actually now. Terry says Newcastle did have a good 15 to 20 minutes Only problem was it was against Bournemouth. Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose so. They did have a good 10 minutes against us as well, let's be honest, but they were 2-0 down. Mark C was with us as well. How you doing, my friend? Good to see. Hope you are well. Terry says there, to be honest, on Havertz, he did have to travel all the way across London 4 miles and put a red shirt instead of blue. How much more time does he need? I mean, all I would say on that is that it's not only just about staying in London and stuff like that, staying in the Premier League. It's about adapting to a different style of play, isn't it? Different manager, different ideas, different system, a different role in the team, all those kind of things, which he's had to adjust to, and he's taken his time to do that. Is he starting to do that more now? Yeah, I think he is. I think his performance has improved. I still think of Havertz as a bit of a luxury player, if I'm honest. I think he's a bit of a luxury player, which is fine in certain games, and it's worked well in recent games because we've been winning comfortably. You know, is Havertz going to be would you start Havertz away at Manchester City, for example? I wouldn't, personally. That's my feeling. I wouldn't start him in that game because I think he's a little bit of a luxury player that isn't going to win you those type of games for me. Maybe bring him off the bench, he might, as he did against City at home, but I wouldn't necessarily start him in that game for me. Terry says, give Arteta a break. The process has been extended until 2028, so we have plenty of time for more disappointments. Well, I mean, it's been lots of disappointments in the last 20 years, maybe, hasn't it? Since we last won the Premier League, there's been a lot of disappointments. But what can you do? We try and make the best of it, don't we? Anyway, Terry says, if Arteta wants 29-35, Cedric, El Neni, Vieira, Eddie, Nelson, and so do I. And that seems to be the thoughts from social media on it at all. Terry says, our bench is costing us 600 or 700 grand. Yeah, it is. Our bench is costing us a lot of money, and it's not got the quality on it, has it? That's in terms of wages, obviously. And yeah, you're right. And going back to the shirt thing before, Terry says, I'll have Arteta out on the back of my shirt. Yeah, maybe that might catch on. Who knows? It might catch on. We'll see. Terry says, iPad. It's an iPad Albert, isn't it? Makes all our good decisions. Well, I don't know if he does, but I don't know what decisions he makes. But maybe he does make all the good ones. We'll see. Terry says, kicked out Aubameyang for 29. Well, yeah, somebody did, although it wasn't quite a straight swap, was it really? Terry says, Arteta is that good at talent spotting. He wanted to get rid of Saliba. I don't know if he wanted to get rid of Saliba. He sent him out on loan. Whether that's the same thing, I'm not sure. Wayne says, challenging for a league with... we had that comment before, didn't we? Yeah. And yeah, I mean, beating Man City was great, but one off is not enough. Terry says about RIP Stan Bowles. Indeed, yeah, Stan Bowles, of course. What a talent he was, by the way. Brilliant player. Wayne says he never wanted to get rid of Saliba. He sent him on loan. To not get exposed playing next to people like Mustafi. But I don't know if that's the reason. I mean, I think he sent him on loan to get experience, absolutely. And clearly it's worked. And no one can question it now. Did he really want to keep him? He wasn't his signing. Did he send him on loan and hope that he would maybe end up leaving like all the other players he sent out on loan? We don't really know, do we? The fact is it's worked out. It doesn't really matter now. We've got Saliba. He's playing well. And he's proving what a great player he is. But yeah, we shall see. Kind of Dan says another Vieira had his moment. Well, yeah, another Vieira. Yeah, exactly. The not quite so good one. I'm assuming you're referring to. There we go. Where are we? Wayne says there. An agenda driven, obviously, about my comment about sacking Arteta if we only win 2-1 at Sheffield United. That was a joke, though. Wayne says, I remember that Unai Emery game. Yeah, I was there, actually. And it was, I mean, I thought we were a little bit unlucky to lose that game, if we're honest. We could have had 2 penalties. I think we missed a few chances, and Sheffield United scored from pretty much they've only shot a goal all game. It was one of them type of games, wasn't it? It was towards the end of Unai Emery, and I think we all kind of felt that was the end coming. Yeah, that wasn't a great time, but we've had a few difficult games away at Bramall Lane over the years. You know, we hadn't won there for years until we won in the FA Cup. That year we won it. And then, of course, we won in the league last time we played them there. But we've struggled, haven't we? I remember when they were in, I don't know if it was in the Championship or even in League One, when we played them in the FA Cup and we drew 0-0 and we won on penalties. And that was in the days when Thierry Henry was, but I don't think Thierry Henry played that night particularly. I think he was rested. But it was in them days, wasn't it? 2004, maybe 2005, around that time. And we drew 0-0 in a replay at Bramall Lane and went through on penalties. It's never been a good ground for us. It never has been a good ground for us. So, yeah, but let's be honest, they're terrible, aren't they? and we should win quite easily. Wayne says, yes, Havertz starts the big games, hence Charity Shield. We beat City twice this season with Havertz playing in some capacity. See, I don't look on it as we beat City twice. We drew with them once and we beat them once. We won the Community Shield on penalties. We didn't beat them, did we? We won a penalty shootout. It's not quite the same. For me, I look on that the same every single time we've won on penalties. I always look on it as a draw. The game's a draw. When we beat Liverpool to win the Community Shield on penalties, we win it because we won a shootout, but we drew the game. When I look at stats and say, oh, when was the last time we beat Liverpool? Some people said, oh, we won at Anfield a few years ago in the Cup and on penalties. No, we didn't. We drew. Was it 0-0 that night, wasn't it? And we won on penalties, but that's not winning at Anfield. Winning at Anfield is going there and winning the game, 2-1 or 1-0, whatever it is. Not winning on penalties, to me, doesn't count as a win. You've won a shootout, you haven't won the game. And to me, we beat City once this season, and it was great. We drew with them, which was decent. We scored in the 95th minute, whatever it was, to get a draw. And now we're playing them again. And let's see if we can get another result. Again, three games in a row unbeaten against City in a season would be a massive step forward, wouldn't it? Because when was the last time we didn't lose a game to City in a season? It'd be probably, 7-8 years ago? Probably that season 2015 we beat them. I'm sure we beat them away, and I think we drew at home, didn't we? So it's probably that season. It is great. I mean, Havertz has started a lot of games. I personally wouldn't start him in some of them games because I do think he's a bit of a luxury player at times. Terry says 29 won the Champions League all by himself. The other 15 players. Well, he scored the winning goal, and I do think that if you score a winning goal in a Champions League final, you've won the Champions League for your team, haven't you? By scoring. It's like Aubameyang won the FA Cup for us when he scored those 2 goals against Chelsea and the 2 goals against City in the semi-final. And I do think that's important. Wayne says the over-hating on Havertz is really odd to me. He's a jack-of-all-trades player. And as a team, tactically, we are very adaptable for different types of games. And the manager uses Havertz for this. He uses Havertz in different ways. Absolutely, he does. Yeah, you're right. He's played him in 3 or 4 different positions in different games, hasn't he? Which is fine. But to me, that is kind of almost a definition of a luxury player, isn't it? He's not got one settled position. You wouldn't really play, Saka in a different position, would you? You wouldn't play Saka in 2 or 3 different positions because he is a top player in his position that he plays in. And if Havertz was a top player in the position that he played in, he would play in that same position every single game. But he doesn't. And you're right. He moves. I don't dislike Havertz. I like him as a guy. I don't feel as though he's justified the £65 million that we paid for him. I don't think he was what we really needed. He's doing a lot better lately. He's had some great games. I thought he played pretty well against Newcastle. I thought he's played pretty well in some recent games as well. Scored some goals, a lot more goals recently as well. But I just don't feel as though for the money we paid for him, it's been good value yet. It's early days. Of course it is. As we said, Robert Pires took a season to settle. Thierry Henry took 6 months or so to really settle and show his best form. So there's no reason to suggest that Havertz won't take the same amount of time. But for me, he hasn't yet done enough for me to justify the fact we pay all that money for him. He's done well in certain games, absolutely. He's disappeared in certain games as well. And that can't be ignored just because he's had some good games. It's you've got to look at it overall. And I think overall for the season, I wouldn't really, at this moment in time, with 2/3 of the season gone, I wouldn't give Havertz more than a 6 out of 10 for the season. He's had some games where he's been an 8 out of 10, absolutely. But as the season overall, I would say he's had about a 6 out of 10 season, Kai Havertz. He's now got the opportunity, hasn't he? If he starts becoming an important player in the run into the season and gets us over the line in some of these games, absolutely, then he would be getting an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for the season because that's when it matters. But so far, I don't think he's justified any more than a 6 out of 10 overall. Wayne says, yeah, that's true. Some players are specialists in one position, which is fine. But if a player is flexible, then that's a good thing too. And to be honest, when I say Havertz hate, I don't mean you personally. No. I mean, there has been a lot of people that have. I mean, I know Terry's not a massive fan of Havertz, for example. There's a load of others out there. And I totally get that as well. But I do think it's important to have, sorry, flexible is the right word, but like players that can play in 2 or 3 different positions. And I think it's good to have as a squad, rather than buying 2 or 3 different players. You can buy one player who can fill in different positions, and it's handy to have that sort of player. But that to me suggests a player that isn't really a top player in any of those positions. He's okay in a few positions, yes, and he can do a job in a few different positions, which is good to have. But does that really make him a top player? It makes him a useful squad player, absolutely. He's playing every week, and I'm not sure whether or not he's deserved to play every. At the moment, I would say yes, he has. He's played well, I agree. But prior to that, he maybe played a lot of the time when he wasn't playing well, and yeah, maybe Arteta just kept faith in him. He knew he could do the job he wanted him to do, and maybe now that's starting to play off. But we'll see. As I said, that the biggest test for us now are to come, aren't they? The biggest tests that come. We've got all these big, difficult away games that we've struggled in previously. We've got the point in the season where we crumbled last year. Let's see. And if Havertz plays a big part in those games and helps us, I say, to get us over the line in some of them games, then fantastic. He would have justified his 65 million, wouldn't he? If that's if he helps us win the league, or he helps us get to the Champions League final, or even win it, who knows? Then of course he would have justified it. But if the same results happen again, and if he disappears in some of those games as he's disappeared in games before, then the questions will always be asked, won't they? So there you go. Terry says, would anyone in the top 10 want Havertz? I don't think so. I don't know. That's an interesting question, isn't it? That is an interesting question. I don't know. I don't think too many other teams in the top 10 would pay 65 million for him. Would they have him if he was cheaper and they could afford him? Maybe, yeah. I think maybe a few would. None of them would pay 65 million for him. That's the fact, isn't it? I suppose. Terry says he was an FFP tax loss. I can't see any other reason for buying him. Well, he's shown more in recent games as to why we bought him, and I agree. I think at the start of the season, I think Neil mentioned it as well, didn't he? Before that, I don't think we understood really why have we bought Kai Havertz. Why did we buy a player like that? He didn't seem to fit what we needed. But you have to say that now you can kind of see, and I think Wayne's point is a valid one here, isn't it? Because he can play different roles in the team. He can play that false nine role as he did well on Saturday. He can play in the sort of left 8 role, if you want to call it that. He's done okay there as well. He can play a deeper role. So he can play a little bit wider. So he has got that flexibility, but and that would be useful. As I say, it's useful to have in your squad. And I think that some of them teams in the top 10 would like a player like that. Absolutely. They wouldn't pay that money for him. We have. But I say, if he ends up helping us to win the trophies that we want, who cares? It'd be money well spent, won't it? But up till now, I think underwhelmed would be the best way to describe it. And even when he plays well, as he did against Newcastle, he missed a really big chance that could have been a big moment in that game. Because if Newcastle has gone up the other end and scored a goal, they had 1 or 2 opportunities, didn't they, after that? And it goes, instead of being 3-0 game over, it's suddenly 2-1. Those are the type of moments, aren't they? And if that happens against Man City away, we're probably not going to get away with it in the way that we did in that game. Do you see what I mean? And I don't know. I still think that, for me, the jury's out on Kai Havertz. It's not just about him. The jury's out on him for me. But let's see. I say that the really important time's coming now, isn't it? And let's see what he can produce when it really matters. Because last season, we didn't have enough players who were able to rise to the occasion when they needed to and get us over the line. We've got Declan Rice now. I think we're all confident he can do that. Can Kai Havertz do it as well? We'll have to wait and see. And if he does, we've got a great chance, haven't we? As we said earlier, we've got a great chance. But will we actually win it? I don't know. I just want to enjoy these last few games. The next game we've got on Monday should be one to enjoy, shouldn't it? Because let's face it, we should be scoring a few goals in that game on Monday, and then see where we go. See where we are at the end of the season. And that's all we can hope, isn't it? I hope that we're not gonna, whether we win the league or not. My hope is that we don't finish in the way that we did last season. We don't fall apart in the run into the season. That's what I want to see, that we've learned from that. And I say, even if we finish 3rd, if we've pushed it all the way, I'll be happy. I'll say that's a decent season. You know, if we get to semi-final Champions League as well, I'll be pretty happy with that overall. It's not enough, obviously, but I'll be pretty happy with that. Wayne says Havertz was literally our first summer signing, and Arteta said various times he loves, and not saying we all have to agree, but the manager has big faith in him. I'm not going to stay mad. I hope it works. No, I always said that right from the start. I said I hope it works out for him. When we bought him, a lot of people were saying, why have we bought Kai Havertz? He was rubbish at Chelsea, all this, that, and the other. And I don't care what he did for Chelsea. It's irrelevant. What I care is what he does for us. And I want him to do well. because he plays for Arsenal. I want all the Arsenal players to work out and play well. But sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say it's not working. And I haven't got to that point with Kai Havertz yet. I'm undecided still. He's had his moments and he's had his poor moments as well. And I think at the moment they've been about 50-50 for me. His good moments, maybe his poor games have maybe just overshadowed his better games. He has good moments in most games. He has good moments, but he disappears for too long in other games. He has bad moments in games. His finishing sometimes is short of the required standard. And I don't know. He hasn't convinced me yet. I'm still 50-50 on him. But I agree with you. I want him to do well. I want it to work out for him. I want him to score the goal that wins us the Premier League. Wouldn't that be great? Or he scores the goal that wins us the Champions League or gets us into the Champions League final, whatever it is. I want him to get the winner against Porto. Brilliant. You know what I mean? We'd love it, wouldn't we? But we need to keep doing it, don't we? Terry says, Arteta also bought Win the Dog. Well, he did, yeah. Win the Dog's lovely, though, isn't he? Wayne says, and we've not lost to Man City since getting the dog. Well, that's true. We haven't lost to Man City since we got the dog. We've lost to a few other teams, haven't we? But anyway, let's see. It's not just that one game. I mean, it'd be typical, wouldn't it, of Arsenal? We'll go to the Etihad and we'll win, and we'll still come second behind Liverpool in the league. You know, Liverpool will beat Man City as well, and we'll come second. Man City will come third. Liverpool will win the league. And we did a double over Man City, and it won't actually count for anything, will it? But it will be a step in the right direction, though, won't it? I agree. So that was a slightly different show tonight, wasn't it? We had Daniel in, the Newcastle fan. What a great guy he is, by the way. And it's good to get a different perspective on not only on Arsenal, on football in general. And it's nice to hear other people's opinions on things as well. And Daniel contributed some great opinions there. You know, he's a similar kind of era to us, which is great. So he kind of comes from a similar place and he kind of gets it, doesn't he? Like in the same way that we do, which is good. But, you know, I like hearing all people's different opinions. So let's be honest, Arteta spent 700 million and the only player really worth the money is Rice at the moment. Well, I mean, Rice can't really be questioned, can he? He costs a lot of money, but it's like, well, fair enough. You know what I mean? So he says, spot on. Exactly, it was spot on, Wayne. Yeah, exactly. We haven't lost to Man City since. So let's hope that run continues in a few weeks' time. End of March, that game, 31st of March. Well, that's going to come around soon, isn't it? So yeah, it's quite a different show today, wasn't it? It was good. Good to have Lee and Neil back as well, of course, as always. And I say it was great to get Daniel on as well to give us a slightly different perspective on things as well. Good to hear, you know, that although Newcastle are having a bit of a difficult time of it at the moment, you know, Daniel's still behind the manager and still is hopeful that things will turn around for him. And let's hope they do. You know, I mean, I live in Newcastle now, as you guys know, and it's such a football city, really. You know, everywhere you go in Newcastle, people follow the team. Everyone does, and it obviously, you know, Paul has been a Newcastle fan all her life, so I want them to do well. Of course, I do. Apart from the 2 games against Arsenal, and I don't want them to do better than us, you know. But most of the season, I want them to do well. You know, it's good for where I live. The city gets a buzz off it. You know, when they got to Wembley last year and stuff like that, you know, it's great. So, you know, I want them to do well. But at the minute, they're having problems, aren't they? They've got a few issues going on. So let's see what happens and how that works out for them, and whether or not Eddie Howe will still be here next season. I think Newcastle will have. I like Eddie Howe. I think he'd be perfect manager for England, and that might be where he ends up. Maybe if England flop in the Euros, maybe Southgate might leave, and maybe there's an opportunity if Eddie Howe does lose his job at Newcastle. Maybe that's the next step for him. That'd be great. I'd love him as England manager. I do rate Eddie Howe. I'm just not sure if Eddie Howe. I said it at the time. I remember we had Billy on from the Toon Review on the channel. When the takeover happened, and obviously Eddie Howe was brought in, and I said to Billy then, you know, is Eddie Howe really the man to take Newcastle to that top level? And I think you know, we both sort of said we doubted whether he was. He's done well. He's done a great job. He's a great manager, but I don't think he's a top Champions League manager. I don't think he's a manager that's going to win your trophies. I don't think so. I think he's better off. Eddie Howe would be brilliant, like he was at Bournemouth, but maybe at a smaller club with less expectations. He can overachieve. If he's at Newcastle now with the money that they've got, he's always going to probably be underachieving unless he's winning league titles and Champions Leagues and FA Cups and stuff like that. Which, is he able to do that? Maybe he will if the money's invested right. Who knows? But for me, I think Newcastle will look bigger than Eddie Howe and get Eddie Howe in for England. That will be my feeling on it, because I do think he's a very, very good manager, but he's not top level, is he? And you don't need to be a top level manager to be successful managing England here, let's be honest. So that would be perfect. But anyway, that's not our problem to worry about too much, is it? Our issue is our manager at this moment in time, and let's see if he's learned the lessons from last season. It's all very well winning games in February, which we've done almost completely, apart from the Champions League game. Let's see if we can get the similar results in March and April, when it starts to really matter. Look at the games we've got as well. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Terry says, great show again, Richard. A great bunch on tonight. What a nice guy Dunn is. He is, yeah. I remember him on once before. He was spot on then. Have a great week. See you all soon. Yeah, he was on. We did last Christmas time when the World Cup was on. We did a few World Cup shows, didn't we? And he came on. I think he came on a couple of them, actually. Though he's a nice guy. You know, he loves his football. And yeah, he came on a couple of times then. And he's always a good guy to get on. And I was delighted he was able to come on tonight. And I'm sure he'll be back on again at some point. We'll probably do some other shows about. He's got great memories of the old, as I'm sure you got from some of the stuff he was saying tonight. You know, and it's always good when stuff like that is. We get people like that have that history. I like that. That's something I've always enjoyed. So I'm sure he'll be on again. He was a great guest, and it was good to see, obviously, Lee and Neil as well. So yeah, thanks all you guys for watching. There's not a lot going on this week, is there now? It's probably going to be, there's no midweek games or anything like that. I'll be back on Friday, of course, for the Arsenal Women's Show. It's going to be a slightly different show this week, as we know. Andreas is flying to London for the North London Derby, and Emma's on holiday in the Dominican Republic. I mean, how can he go on holiday this time of the year? I don't know. But anyway, he'll have a good holiday, I'm sure. So I'll be here with some videos from the guys and all your comments as well. So that'll be Friday at 7:30. And then, of course, on Sunday lunchtime, it is the big one, isn't it? North London Derby from the Emirates. Arsenal women against Tottenham. So join me for that one. Kickoff is 12:30. I'll be at 12:15 for all the coverage of that one. So that's going to be good fun. So join me for that. And, of course, next Monday night, by this time next week, we'll know what's happening, won't we? It's Arsenal away at Sheffield United in the Premier League. Game kicks off at 8 o'clock. I'll be at 7:45 for that one. So that's going to be good, isn't it? So join me for that show as well. And there may be one or two other bits and bobs coming up as well. And then I don't think there's any games next week, is there? Oh, actually, tomorrow night there's the Lionesses game. I don't know whether I'll be doing the Lionesses game or not, actually. I might do. I'll see what time the kickoff is. Anyway, we'll see. But anyway, it will definitely be a Friday for the women's show. So join us for that. And of course, Sunday, the North London Derby. So when we get to Tottenham, we've got to get revenge on them, haven't we, after they beat us recently. We can't lose them again, can we? Terry says, hit that like button before you go. Indeed. Good night. Yeah, thank you all your comments as well. I think we got through most of them in the end as we went through. I wanted to get the guys chatting, so we maybe didn't put the comments on as much as we normally would. So I think we've been through them all since. So thank you for all of that anyway. And yes, I will see you on Friday, which will be good. So join me for that, of course, if you can. Thanks for watching tonight. Thanks to Neil, to Lee, and so especially in the music after that heavy. I thought we went easy enough on him, didn't we? We could have been a lot more harsh on him, couldn't we? But we wasn't. We were kind to him, and he deserves it. He's a nice guy, as we said. So yeah, thanks for Daniel as well. Thanks you guys for watching. As Terry says, give us a like. Please think about subscribing. And don't forget as well, I went to the Newcastle women's game yesterday in the Cup. It was a great game. 22,000 at St James's Park for that Tier 3 women's football. There's a vlog on at the other channel, so please check that out as well. The channel's called A Bit Rich, and it's got the videos on there for yesterday's Newcastle women's game, which was good. So check that out. I will see you Friday. Take it easy, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully the weather might improve a little bit because it's supposed to get a bit colder, a bit of snow. We don't want that, do we? So join me for all of that stuff, and I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Come on, you guys. See you later, guys.